Today, let's do an exercise in pattern recognition. David M. Leah & Company was a furniture manufacturer based in Richmond, Virginia, that operated for roughly 145 years before closing at the end of 2014. Lewis Franklin Powell Sr. was president and chairman of the wooden box manufacturing division of David M. Lee & Company at the beginning of the Great Depression in the 1930s. Powell had a son who went to Harvard Law School and eventually became the chairman of the Richmond, Virginia Board of Education. During his tenure there, he fought a legal challenge to defy the Supreme Court's 1954 decision to desegregate all publicly funded schools, Brown v. Board of Education. Powell Jr. was one of those party-switch Democrats that ended up being a Republican in the 1970s. On August 15, 1971, U.S. President Nixon discontinued the ability of foreign investors to convert dollars to gold. On August 23, 1971, while serving as a corporate attorney on the board of Philip Morris, Powell wrote a confidential memo for the U.S. Department of Commerce that was leaked to investigative columnist Jack Anderson. This memo is now known as the Powell Memo. On October 21, 1971, President Nixon nominated Powell to the Supreme Court. What the heck was in that memo?
One of the most revealing pieces of evidence that government elites were now embedded within government institutions is the Powell Memo. It was written by Lewis Powell, a corporate lawyer who would soon become a Supreme Court justice. This document had the form of a confidential memo to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, urging corporations to launch a coordinated, long-term political and ideological campaign to take back control of universities, media, law, and public opinion. Powell wrote, "The American economic system is under broad attack." He was telling business elites that this is a time for drastic action. Business must learn the lesson that political power is necessary, and he was egging them on to take over the media. The national television networks should be monitored in the same way that textbooks should be kept under constant surveillance. So why does the Powell Memo matter? Because it's the moment a future Supreme Court justice basically said the quiet part out loud, that corporations needed to retake the country culturally, politically, and academically, and that the 1970s crisis was their chance to do it. And it worked.
In 1971, Richard Nixon nominated Lewis Powell Jr. to the Supreme Court to reward him for his efforts in securing power and control for the wealthy elites. Less than a year later, a senior Nixon aide ordered investigative reporter Jack Anderson be assassinated by drugging and poisoning. Fortunately, the plot was abandoned when the assigned assassins were arrested for the Watergate break-in.